So the song we're learning in this lesson is Canon in D by Pachelbel. So Canon in D by Pachelbel. This is a fabulous song to learn. It looks pretty busy, but don't panic. That left hand is just a repeated chord pattern. Once you know it, you'll see it's really easy to do. We've got 7 lines of music here. And at the end, we've got this beautiful run up the piano. Again, it's just a run up the piano in a D major chord. So you will be able to learn that. So the first thing we do is look at the key signature. So we've got 2 sharps, and as you've learned, that means it's a D major scale. So we're in D major here, the key of D major. It's got an F sharp and a C sharp in it. Now, of course, it could be the relative minor. So for D, that would be a B minor. How do we know whether we're in the major or minor key? Well, there's a few things that can tell us this, but the easiest one is to look at the very end bar. The last notes in the song, what are they? Because composers will tend to end the piece of music in the root note of the key. So if we take a look at this last chord, in our left hand, you've got 2 Ds, an octave of D. And in the right hand, if you were to work out what those notes were, you would see it's just a D major chord. So because the piece has ended in D, we're pretty sure that this key is in D major. If it was in B minor, the likelihood is the composer would have ended the piece on a B. He doesn't have to, of course, but it's a really good rule of thumb. So F sharp and C sharp, this is a D major key. So we have to remember when we see any Fs or Cs come up in this piece, we must play them as a sharp unless otherwise indicated by a natural sign. So if I highlight all the Fs and Cs in this first page of music, all of these would have to be played as a sharp. But just remember, every time you come across an F or a C in the piece, sharpen it. Okay, the time signature, well, it's pretty standard. It's 4/4, so that means 4 quarter beats in a bar. So I'll add in the count. We've got quite a lot of 8th notes in our left hand, so we'll be using ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. No really high or really low notes. There's no ties or slurs. There's no dotted notes here. There is on this second page, we've got a few dotted notes. We'll go through them. And at the very end, obviously, there are some notes off the stave. But as I've said, they're just chord notes. So I will show you that. So to start with, let's have a look at the left hand. It looks very difficult and busy, and if you were to sit and try and work out all these notes, it would take you forever. And if your sight reading isn't as good, which it probably won't be yet, it really will take too long and be too hard to work out. If you did sit down and work out all these notes, you'd work out very quickly they're all just chord notes. So this first one is a D, an A D, and an F sharp. Remember, we've gone off the stave here in the bass clef, but remember that top line would be middle C, so you're just counting up from middle C. So we've got a D, an A D, and an F sharp. So this is just the chord of D. It's the triad of D, D, F sharp, A, and then we've got the octave D as well. So there's our 4 notes. And all the composer has done is a lovely broken sound. It's really common in music. He's just taken the 3rd note of the chord and put it at the top. So instead of D, F sharp, A, and then D, he's just taken that F sharp and put it at the top. And this is the broken chord. It's a really common, lovely way of playing broken chords in the left hand. Of course, you don't have to do that to start with. You can just play the triad. So this is a D major triad. If we move on, we've got an A, an E, an A, and a C sharp. So that's an A major chord. Then we have a B, an F sharp, a B, and a D. That's a B minor chord. Then we have an F sharp, a C sharp, an F sharp, and an A. That's an F sharp minor chord. And then we have a G, a D, a G, and a B, which is a G major chord. And then we have a D, an A, a D, and an F sharp, which is the D major again. And then we have another G major. And then we end it on the A major, A, E, A, C sharp. And this pattern of chords is repeated on every single line. So once you've learnt this in your left, you've then done the whole thing in your left. So let's go through this left hand before we move on to our right hand. So first up, I'm just going to play the triads. So middle C is here. I've moved my camera down so you can see what I'm doing in the left hand, and we're going to start with the D major, just under middle C here. Now remember how to find your major and minor triads. A major is 4 half steps followed by 3 half steps, and the minor is 3 half steps followed by 4 half steps. But we're starting on a D major, and then we move down to an A major, and then we move up to a B minor, and then we move down to an F sharp minor, and then up 1 to the G major, down this time to the D major, up again to the G major, and we end on an A major. And this is just repeated on every line of this song. That's all your left hand is doing. So spend some time just going through those 8 chords. And once you've got used to that pattern of chords, you can try the 4-note chord. I would urge you to always play the 4-note chord because it is a much better and broader sound. So all we're doing is adding the octave. So our first D major, we're just adding the D at the top as well. And then your A major, just adding the A at the top, and so on. So if I play these 4-note chords to the metronome, it would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D major, A major, B minor, F sharp minor, G, D, G, So when you're comfortable playing the 4-note chord, you can try 1 note at a time. Now this actually sounds much better with the pedal. Now we will be going over the pedal in a bit more detail in later lessons, but for now, all you have to do is hold down the pedal while you play the 4 notes of the chord. So for D major, sounds much more pretty, doesn't it? But you do need to release the pedal when you hit the note of the next chord, and it's a really quick up and down. So we D, as I hit the A, I go up and down, 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 up and down. So let's try that to the metronome. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D major, A major, B minor, F sharp minor, G, D, G, A. And then once you're comfortable with that, you can try that beautiful left-hand broken pattern that is written in the music. Now it's really simple. All you're doing is taking the 3rd note of the chord and popping it at the top. So instead of playing D, F sharp, A, D, you're going to miss out the F sharp and play it at the top. So it'd be D, A, D, F sharp. And then you do that for all the chords. So for A, you're putting that C sharp at the top. So it's A, E, A, C sharp. And then the same for the B minor. That 3rd note is the D of the chord, so we're going to put the D at the top. So it'll be B, F sharp, B, D. And then the same for the F sharp minor, we'll put the A at the top. And then the G, we'll be putting the B at the top. And then back to the D with the F sharp at the top. And the G with the B at the top. And we end on the A with the C sharp at the top. So I'll play that to the metronome so you can hear what it sounds like. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D major, A major, B minor, F sharp minor, G, D, G, A. Okay, of course I will add this to your song practice, so just take your time, nice and slowly, start with the triads, then the 4-note chords, and then try the broken pattern, and when you're ready, you can try the right hand. So I'm just going to take you through the right hand quickly so you know what to expect, but then I'll leave you to your song practice. So I've moved my piano so that we can see the right hand, so middle C is now here. And we're going to be starting up here. So we're starting on the F sharp, and it's an octave higher than the one above middle C. So we'll be starting here. And this is middle C. So line 1 in the right hand, you're not doing anything. Line 2 is a really simple single note pattern in half notes. So it's F sharp, E, D, C sharp, B, A, B, C sharp. Line 3 is just the chords, but the composer has inverted them. So that first chord of D in your right hand, that's just a D major chord. It's a D, an F sharp and an A. All that's happened is the composer has put the A in the bottom, but you don't have to. So it's a D, and then we move on to an A triad, and then we move on to a B minor triad, but the composer's put the F sharp in the bottom. Then we move on to an F sharp minor, and then a G, but with the D in the bottom, and then a D major, and then the G again, and then we end on the A. And again, he's inverted the chord so that the E is at the bottom. We will be doing a lot more, we'll be looking a lot more at inverted chords next week, so don't worry too much. If you can follow the sheet music, great, but if you can't, just do the chords, the triads in your right hand. Okay, line number 4, we're just following a melody here. We do have those dotted notes. So let's take a quick look. Remember how the rhythm works with dotted notes. The second F sharp here is dotted, so we're holding it for a beat and a half because the dotted note adds half the value on again. And because we have a beat and a half for that F sharp, the final E will be an 8th note on the and. And if you're playing with both hands, you can just take this beat by beat. So beat 1, you're playing the F sharp in the right and the B in the left. For the and, you're holding the F sharp, playing the F sharp in the left hand. For 2, we move on to B in the left and D in the right. For the and, we're playing a D in the right. For the 3, we're playing F sharps. For the and, we're playing a C sharp in the left. For the 4, an F sharp in the left. And then on that last and, we're playing an E in the right and an A in the left. So it will sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So practice that rhythm when you come to it in the piece. Now line 5, you can just play the top line of melody. Some of these notes have, beats have 2 notes. Now, all that is the composer adding in some harmony notes to make it sound pretty, which it does. It sounds beautiful, but you don't have to do it. If it looks a bit much for you, then just stick to the top line of melody. If you did want to play it with the added harmony notes, it would sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, now line 6, it's just a melody line, so feel free to print out the sheet music and work out what all those notes are. You should be able to do that, and you can just write them onto your sheet music, so you can follow that instead of having to sight read. And then the very last line, line 7, remember it's just a run in D major. All of these notes are D, F sharp and A, just repeated up the keyboard. In the left hand, we start on a D and we're just moving up a D major triad. So D, F sharp, A, D, and then our right hand will take over. F sharp, A, D, F sharp, A, D, F sharp, A, and then we end with a D major chord, both Ds and the F sharp and the A. And in the left, we just do an octave of D. But you can actually do whatever you like here. Okay, so do practice this with the song practice exercise that I've added to this lesson. Practice your left hand first, and then your right hand, and then both together. So the end of that song is really, really tough. Trying to do the melody with the harmonies in the right hand and that beautiful broken pattern in the left is not easy. You're not going to get there quickly. And the beautiful thing about this song is that you don't have to get there at all. If you want to do the harmonies and the more complex rhythm in the right hand, you can just use block chords in your left hand and only move on when you feel ready. Take your time with it. It can be a work in progress over the next few weeks. So I've added the song to your practice plan along with your scales practice and those exercises, so do keep up with that if you can. In the next lesson, we're going to be looking at the D minor, so a different minor scale for us. And we've got a really great lesson next lesson actually. We're learning all about chord inversions and chord progressions.